Please welcome SingleStore CMO, Nadukar Kumar.
What a day already. It's one of my favorite songs. It has been a good day, and I think today it is going to be a good day. So I'm going to talk about a few things today that might puzzle you initially, but stay with me because I promise this is going to connect with what we are here for today. One of the greatest civilizations known to man ever, arguably, was the Roman civilization. And at some point, it ceased to become an empire and became a republic. And that was a time when a person by the name of Lucius Brutus led a revolution and brought down the monarchy. And that changed the overall relationship of the Roman Republic to its history, to the information in the past. And so, what ended up happening was whenever there was an aristocrat and they passed away, they would literally take a mask through a wax embedding and then put it in the house of their descendants. So, years after somebody had died, a child, whenever it was born, they would be immersed into what their ancestors did and the history. So much so that when somebody died, the children would wear their ancestors' mark into the funeral parade. And the reason why this is important is because 500 years later, Lucius Brutus had a descendant by the name of Marcus Brutus. And he was good friends with who we all know as Julius Caesar. And Julius Caesar, around that time, 500 years later, started to act like a king and a monarch. So one day, Marcus Brutus wakes up and somebody has written on his wall that says, "Remember your ancestors." Then we, of course, know that on the Ides of March, Brutus, who was best friend for Caesar, along with a few of his other friends, stuck a knife into Julius Caesar, and that was the end of it. And this was a consequential point in the entire Roman history. So why do I bring that up? Why in a conference of an AI are we talking about history? And one of the primary reasons for that is the history of humankind is littered with incidents like that, which basically defines how we are human. And the reason we are human, if you really break it down, it is our memory, it is our knowledge that we gather on moment by moment. And then over a period of time, with the context, with the real-time data, we make different choices. And then these choices go back into our memory. So in many ways, when we look at why one human is different from another human, is either because they've had a different set of information in the past, or the context that they're going through combined with that information is completely different. And the actions that you then make out of those or take after those is what defines each one of us as truly human. So another short lesson in history, if you remember from last SingleStore Now, 1500 years later, Michelangelo painted this fresco in the Sistine Chapel, which for years and years people believe is an ode to how humanity was created. So you have a picture of God or the Creator, and He's creating man in His own image, and He's catching Sophia right next to her, right next to him, who is the goddess of knowledge. So people believe this is how humanity came about, or at least a good portion of the humanity believed that. It was only a few years ago when a doctor looked at this painting and said, wait a minute, when you look at it from a much farther distance, the creator or God is actually ensconced in the anatomically correct shape of the human brain. So maybe there was a hidden message that whoever gave birth to humanity and this cognition was probably like another brain. So when you look at that, and then you look at what we are doing with AI today, we are doing the exact same thing. We are giving birth to another cognition, another intelligence in many ways. And today, it is in the notion of what is called an agent. So what does an agent really look like? And this is year 2 of AI, by the way. You cannot imagine what it'll be like in another year or maybe even another couple of months. So when you think of an agent kind of mimics the same cognition architecture that we humans have. It has intelligence, which is access to a large language model, and that could be different based on what this agent has to do. There is access to knowledge, which is the data, and in this case, in enterprise AI, that data is your enterprise data, which is sitting in your data lakes, data lake houses, in your transactional databases, in your graph database. And then you give it certain tools, and those tools could be just access to APIs. But tools is what makes this agent agentic, because now the agent starts to become autonomous and can start to do things and feed itself back that knowledge to have its own identity. Now, all of this I bring up because this is the exact same architecture if we want AI to be similar to humans in many ways. And this is where the world is going. By the way, OpenAI calls these as assistants, but it's the exact same thing. It has access to retrieval data, it has access to tools, which is functions and APIs, and it has access to a large language model. And this is where, tying it back to what Raj talks about in where AI is headed in terms of agentic, when everybody else has access to the same intelligence and maybe even the same tools, what differentiates an agent from some other agent is the data it has access to. And that data is a combination of both your past point in time data as well as data which is happening in real time. But now let's talk a little bit about enterprise. When you think about enterprises, of course, there are 3 things that are supremely important when you're building out any enterprise AI application. One, when it is information retrieval, is the data that is being fed to that agent or to that intelligence, whatever it might be referred to at any point in time, it has to be relevant to the corpus of data in the entire enterprise that contains both structured as well as unstructured. But it also needs to be accurate. If you're in healthcare or if you're in financial services or any organization where your agent or large language model starts to hallucinate, it's never going to go to production. And this is one of the big reasons why enterprise AI never saw the day of light for the last 15 or 16 months. And now we are starting to see everything go into production. And some of our customers are going to walk us through those use cases later today. But neither the relevancy or the accuracy can happen unless your latency is near 0. Because if you're missing the fresh data that is happening right now, to use it to curate the information back to the large language model, it is no longer accurate, it is no longer relevant. So let's take an example. An example could be based on the entire knowledge, based on the entire stock trading history, maybe I've made a decision to do some sort of stock trading today. But if something happens in the market right now, and I miss that as the entire context to make a decision, that is not only not relevant, it's not also not accurate. And in fact, if you follow what OpenAI released a couple of days ago, they now released an open socket to their latest model, the latest model being O1. And I keep telling people, we don't realize it, but now AGI is here. It's only because of the fact, in a deliberate way, we are slow rolling it so that it doesn't shock the society. But if you have ever played with O1, not the preview, but the one that is beyond the preview, it's like a difference between GPT 3.5 and 4.0, in the sense it has gotten really good at reasoning. So now the intelligence has gotten better. And in addition, it has now an open socket for audio and video files, which means you can now stream data in and out in real time with a few milliseconds. So all the enterprise data now needs to match that millisecond as well, not just for relevancy, accuracy, but also to have a near human experience, which is at the speed of reality. So if I take all of this now and then we think about how we bring it to enterprise AI architecture, about 12, 14 months ago, we were calling it in-context learning. The large language models they don't have access to your data. And that data, like I said, could be sitting in Snowflake, it could be sitting in your transactional database, it could be sitting in your file system. So you have to curate that and start feeding it into your AI service. And software engineering, one of the things that we learned is that monolithic doesn't scale. And that is how microservices became such a thing, because you can independently scale, you can independently do new releases, and it's always up. You don't have to really bring down the entire systems if you're ever going to go do new releases. And this is a big shift that we're now seeing in retrieval augmented generation, because in enterprise, it truly doing a RAG-based application requires that you do input and output validation. It requires that you have guardrails. It requires that you have explainability, auditability, and governance and RBAC. If you try to do this in a monolithic way, it's going to take not just a few seconds, sometimes even a few minutes. So that latency is at the cost, or the accuracy and the relevancy is at the cost of latency. So this new architecture, which is multi-agent RAG system, or MARS, takes that one step further in the world of microservices to say, what if we took all the RAG actions and each of them now become an independent and autonomous agent? Then we could put that into a graph or a workflow that we can control in a more deterministic way. So we can control how we do RAG, but at the same time, we take advantages of parallelism and also scale accordingly as well, independently. So when we think of that, now the entire picture of an enterprise AI start to emerge. And this looks a little bit messy because it is not naive RAG. This is how enterprises are set up. But if you try to make it a little bit more consumable, you'll understand that the bottom layer, which is the infrastructure, stays the same. But now, instead of just GPUs and CPUs, you have LPUs and you have NPUs. Fun fact, Grok, which is one of the fastest LLM providers, is also going to walk through what they are building, and the new model, which is Llama 3.2, is now available over there as well. So just stay tuned for that when they talk about it. But there's emerging architectures in that area. But that is the infrastructure. Now, if you go one layer up, imagine all the things that you do, including retrieval augmented system, now become agents. And these agents are configured in different workflows or graphs, and they are exposed as APIs. So now the top-down, your UI, which could be a browser plugin, it could be a simple conversational agent, it could be embedded as a feature like 6sense, which is another talk later today, into the application. It becomes invisible in many different ways through this system. But then again, if you look at the right-hand side, that is the data infrastructure. That is the entire landscape of what data is emerging in enterprises. Of course, there are data lakehouses, there are data lakes, data warehouses, there is large file systems, there are S3 buckets, then there could be databases like Postgres, MySQL, and then in addition to all that, sometimes you might have a graph database, and data is moving around all different places. You have pipelines running through each one of them. And then finally, you have jobs that are happening. So our goal, as Raj was talking about, is to take this complexity and truly turn it into simplistic, in the sense we are not replacing all those databases. Sometimes some customers choose to do that when they are not as complex. But At the end of it, they choose to use us as the simple interface, or think of it as a layer, the speedy layer, that sits on top of your data lakehouse, on top of your other entire data infrastructure. And now through one SQL call, you can do a join, you can do a group by, you can do a dot product, you can do an ascending and a descending all across petabytes of data in a few milliseconds. So we have done a lot of that, as Raj talked about, in the last few years. But truly, our vision, if you were to decompose it into three big buckets, the first one is the core engine. And that core engine is what we are focused on to make it faster, to make it more enterprise grade, much more solid. And that continues to iterate days. And of course, in every releases that we do, Sarang, who's going to come right after me, is going to talk about that. But we do realize that all the customers that are using SingleStore and intend to use SingleStore, they also live in an ecosystem of data. And of course, that data resides not just in large data warehouses and transactional databases, but also in very large applications where they're mostly locked in some sort of a structured format. That could be your Salesforce, that could be your SAP, that could be your ServiceNow. What about that? If I'm supposed to use AI in real time to make decisions through agents, I cannot leave that to an ETL job. That needs to be in milliseconds as well, when I'm able to curate all of that and then be able to make decisions based on that. So from that perspective, the Brightflow acquisition, now you understand why it is more strategic, and that is our single connect vision. We have a single store for all information, single connect for connecting in and out with CDC in and out across all your different data sources. And then the last piece, of course, is when customers come in, they say, but what about some asynchronous jobs, like I want to run a constant embedding on a pipeline to convert unstructured data into vectors? What about some materialized views that I build overnight? And that looks at data pipeline from different places. So we added this thing called schedule jobs, and without stealing the thunder, you will see a demo. That's one way to have work done localized to your data instead of having a separate network layer over there. Then, of course, as part of that, you might also want to take data and say, I want to expose this as an API. So my other developers across the company should be able to just go call that API and get back a structured response, right? So this also enables other large language models to talk directly to this database without even having a middle layer, because now you're outputting data in open API format, right? That's what LLMs are now programmed to start listening to. But what about certain applications? What if I just want to build an application right at that data is and expose that as a URL with authentication to my other business units? Well, you will see that today. So if we were to bring all of this together, and if we were to now put this into what it's capable of doing, what can you do with this power? So let's take a look at an example of what we built with this. And this would be something of a session that we cover today at the end. You should stay for that and listen to Alex. He's part of the growth team. There he is. And he's going to talk about how we built it. But let's take a look at what is the power of bringing this all together. All right, so we are in the iconic Chase Center, and this is a Warriors game. So if you realize there's a huge corpus of data of the analytics of the different games that have happened over the years in the season, but there's also new context of data that's emerging, that's in real time. So you take that information plus that context, and now on the right-hand side, you see the large language model, which here is using Grok to give you live commentary. But that's Not just it, you want that data to be higher resolution. You also want analytics. So if you are, let's say, a betting person, and you also have the risky behavior of predicting if a game is going to go in a certain way or not, in real time, we are now taking that data, the unstructured data, the structured data, using analytics in a few milliseconds and producing it in a live stream. Again, stay tuned till the end of the day when Alex is going to talk more about it, on how we built it, and some interesting anecdotes and stories of how we ended up being there. But this, if you now match to what has been released of an model that can respond to a few milliseconds, this is where we match that milliseconds to milliseconds. Now, it's another story that the announcement for OpenAI was about, I did the math, it's about $18 per hour if you wanted to use that feature. So I think all the call center people, they should be safe because they still earn less than $18 an hour. But I do also feel that within a few months, that price is going to drop based on what we have seen. There's going to be a massive disruption when that is also doing reasoning and it's doing in a few milliseconds. The bottleneck will come back to this milliseconds response time from your data. And that's what we are here to discuss and how we're going to help you. So with that, I would now like to invite Sarang, my partner in crime. He heads our sales engineering. He's going to talk about some of these features and what we are releasing today.
Please welcome SingleStore VP of Field Engineering, Sarang Tripathi.
Part about these events is every event, as we progress, we had SingleStore Now last year, we had the Pro Max launch, now we have this. In the room, we see more and more and more customers with the evolution of our events. It's super exciting to see all of you here today, a lot of familiar faces in the audience. So Madhukar talked about the vision of the SingleStore platform being our core connectors and our platform capabilities. Over the next couple of minutes, what we're going to go through is actually what that means and what the capabilities are around core connectors and platform. So let's just start with core. As many of you know, and as Raj discussed, the core SingleStore engine was built starting 13 years ago, right? So this is what we have been building. This has been the labor of love that has been MemSQL and then SingleStore for many, many, many years now. I just want to kind of take a look back at the last year of that innovation. Some of you were at our SingleStore Pro Max launch, where we released a bunch of new features earlier in the year, and in that launch, we discussed and announced several different features like our index vector search, enhancements to the core database engine, real-time analytics features with data integration, and just improvements on that frictionless developer experience. I just kind of want to make sure that we keep ourselves honest with what's happened in the last year and take a look at some of the adoption and the innovation that's happened on that. Super, super excited to share that over the course of the last really 10 months, we have now more than 20% of our Helios customer base using vector search on their SingleStore data, which is super, super exciting. These are powering sub 20 millisecond response on AI applications, from anything from RAG apps like Madhukar was talking about to image recognition and video recognition apps built on SingleStore. And some customers even saw a 10x immediate performance improvement on their vector search queries just by upgrading to SingleStore Pro Max. So remarkable innovation by our customers, and we're super excited for that to continue. Now, I just want to share one story. Directly Apply is a job search platform based in the UK, and I had the pleasure of meeting them earlier this year. They are doing tremendous things on SingleStore. They started actually not using vector search at all. They just had their data in SingleStore powering their job search platform. Over time, they actually took their MongoDB workload and their Elasticsearch workload and consolidated all that into SingleStore from using vector search on Mongo and some AI capabilities of Elastic, consolidated all of that into SingleStore and have 6 millisecond response on vector search queries to enable their job search platform all on SingleStore. So super, super exciting story there. 400x faster performance on SingleStore than their legacy databases. So really exciting stuff happening with our amazing customers. At this time, speaking of amazing customers, I'd love to invite Matt Newman up to the stage to go through the case study of Adobe.
Please welcome Adobe Principal Data Architect, Matt Newman.
Awesome. Good to see you, Matt.
Thank you.
How are you?
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm
Very
honored.
excited to have you too. How many of you were at our SingleStore Pro Max launch or have heard of it or watched it earlier in the year? Good show of hands. That's awesome. So Matt was actually with us at the Pro Max launch, and Matt and I had a fireside chat there as well. So Matt, for the folks that weren't there, why don't you just tell us a little bit about, well, I think all of us probably know Adobe in the room, but maybe folks don't know what Adobe Workfront is. We can tell them about that.
Okay. So I am a part of Adobe Workfront. It is a business unit within Adobe. We got acquired by Adobe 4 years ago. Our solution is basically work management, so project, task, portfolio, program management. And one of the reasons Adobe was really interested in us is a big part of Adobe's business that people aren't aware of is the Experience Cloud, which powers, it's basically tools for marketers, marketing departments at companies to help market their products. And so, as you can imagine, a really big project that you have to run is a marketing campaign. It has all kinds of intricacies and complexities that need to be, coordinating a lot of work. So there's a lot of planning and execution that goes into a marketing campaign. And then after the fact, you usually want to measure a marketing campaign and determine whether it was successful and should we repeat it again. So a lot of our big customers, we have big enterprise customers like Coca-Cola, T-Mobile, Disney, and they run massive marketing campaigns across these really big organizations. And they want to basically plan, execute, and measure them after the fact. And so Workfront helps them to do that.
So all of that sounds super interesting. What scares me about it is that it probably creates a massive data challenge. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the data challenge that you guys have with Workfront?
Okay, and that slide before you might have seen. So we have a product now in Workfront that enables customers to build their own customer-facing, ad hoc reports that they can go in and build these widgets and dashboards and measure what's happening with a marketing campaign. Is it successful or what's at risk? What are the problems that I'm encountering along the way? Who owns what pieces of it? What's the status? And we move forward. As you can imagine, when we have thousands of customers and hundreds of thousands of concurrent users, it becomes a hard data problem. So things like monthly active users, we have 500,000. We have 10 billion records that need to be queried and joined, and we have custom fields and the ability to do really fine-grained authorization on your projects and tasks. And so those queries that people run end up being very intensive on our database systems. We're often joining a 500 million row table with a 4 billion row or a 5 billion row table and joining that all together, and we have to come back within a few seconds to the customer so they have a good experience on their dashboard. And yeah, tens of databases. We're getting close to hundreds of databases soon, and 250 tables. These are all kind of the main entities that we report on, things like projects and tasks. And even now we allow customers to define their own entities and model their data the way they want. So that's becoming even a more of a engineering challenge / nightmare of trying to report on customers' own defined data.
Certainly SingleStore makes it easier.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, good. He's not paid to say that, but
well, I would say even like the JSON features, that enables you to have customer-defined schemas that we're reporting on, so that they're not having to report on these canned columns and things. It might be things that they've made, they've invented, and we're still able to report really fast on JSON data.
That's amazing. So earlier in the year when we met at ProMax, I asked you, what you were doing for AI in Workfront, and admittedly, like I don't want to put you on the spot, but it was an interesting conversation because it was like, oh, we're not quite sure yet, but we're thinking of something, and we had some ideas. And tell us a bit about what you're doing now. We're 10 months later.
Okay, so yeah, we definitely have come down the road more. We started out like most companies. Of course, the cool part of Adobe does Firefly and all this cool stuff in Photoshop with creative products, and some really amazing AI things. On the Experience Cloud side, we're doing like basically what everyone else is doing. We're putting a chatbot in and having it scour our documentation, and so you can ask questions. So a customer's in Workfront and they're asking, how do I create a project? How do I build a marketing campaign? And this really kind of like what Raj said earlier, we've taken the easy things and automated them, the first step. And so that's very valuable to customers. Now they don't have to go search in Google and find the documentation and dig through there. It's right there. The agent is helping them kind of figure out how to do things. The next level for us is agentic. It's now, can you help me? Can you be my co-pilot? Can you do things for me? Can I take hard things and make them easy? So things like, can you help me build a marketing campaign? I don't even know what content to put in there. Or can you create a bunch of tasks and assign it to a bunch of people? And even, can you build me some assets? Like, can you have Firefly generate me some images for my website that I want for my marketing campaign? So we're getting to that next level, I think, of day 2 or day 3 of AI. And another one that's really relevant to me is, can I start asking questions like, what projects are overdue, or things that I can query my database in SingleStore and have it come back and say, you know what, I created you this nice little dashboard widget. Do you want to put it on your dashboard and keep track of this metric that you just asked about? So we're getting more sophisticated, where it's almost the merge of BI and AI in one, where we can ask questions of our data and it comes back with relevant information.
So is it safe to say that Workfront can project manage SingleStore Now for next year?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
good. All right.
Let's just let it submit to the machines. Let
them
all
right. I'm
run
going
your project.
to hold you to that. Awesome, cool. Well, we went through some of the results last time, with you at the Pro Max launch, and I think it's important to revisit some of those because the results you have are just amazing at Adobe. So tell us just a bit about the impact SingleStore's made.
So yeah, we've had amazing results. I mean, there are all these really cool features of SingleStore, but at the root of it is amazing speed of getting data in and then querying the data that's in there. That's what we bought it for. That's what we love it for. So 1 to 2 second ingestion and then access to real-time queries. So again, I don't know if a lot of you have sat there and waited for a Snowflake or Databricks query to come back and it's 20 or 30 seconds. In our case, before we even came here, we were using Postgres, and then we played around with Elasticsearch, and it was just tens of seconds sometimes, or even minutes that you'd wait for a query to come back. So at the root of this, just real-time, fast speed is amazing. Query performance has been amazing, and our cost has gone down. We actually have reduced a lot of that Postgres sprawl of databases and whatnot because we've been able to consolidate a lot of stuff in SingleStore.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt, for being here. Really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, awesome. So, that was, I think Matt's got a great case study. Like you said, Adobe bought SingleStore for the core engine and making queries faster. Let's talk just a bit before moving on some of the features that are coming to the core. We are customer first, customer centric here at SingleStore, and take feedback very seriously from all of you, as I'm sure that you've noticed. There are a couple of core things around our vector search and hybrid search engine that our customers have been asking for, and primarily, as with most things in SingleStore, it is around performance. So we're excited to be working on global BM25 scoring support, which essentially is a fancy way of saying that scoring in SingleStore on vector search queries or in hybrid search queries, isn't as accurate as we want it to be today, and we're working on that. Today, scoring's at a partition level, and implementing this method is going to help us just get tremendously more accurate scores to embed search in apps and the most mission-critical apps that you have. Also, disk-based ANN, which will take our ANN operations out of memory and bring them to disk, and only the relevant operations would then need to be brought to memory, which is going to be a huge efficiency and TCO gain for all of you using SingleStore for AI applications. The most exciting one to me is integrated hybrid search with embeddable models, which is a very fancy way of saying, bring your own model, and we will create the index for you and make your AI operations not just customized, not just personal to you, but as performant as you would like them to be. So super, super exciting, and we're already seeing tremendous results with these features in private preview with some of our customers. One of the largest financial services companies is trying these features out in POC with our team and is already reaching 900 QPS at 300 millisecond average response time on a relatively small to medium size cluster of SingleStore, workspace of SingleStore, excuse me. So it is, it's super exciting. We're working very fast. And like I said, our customers are the ones that drive us to do this innovation. And we work directly with them on these bleeding edge features. So we've talked about the core. The core is super exciting. Like I said, we've been working on it for 13 years. But now it's time to make AI even easier with connectivity and with our platform. So let's just talk a bit more now about connectors. So a really sort of fundamental part of our connector journey, as many of you know, was SingleStore Kai. How many of you have heard of SingleStore Kai? Okay, good contingent of the audience. So like I said earlier, we like to take a look back at the features that we launch, that we ship, and see sort of what the customer adoption's been like, and then share that with you. So let's just talk a bit about SingleStore Kai customer outcomes. We have several customers using SingleStore Kai in production now, and one of the most exciting ones is a digital twin platform called Connect 3D that actually got a 30% reduction in TCO by replacing MongoDB with SingleStore instantly. One of the top 10 product analytics companies, 1,400x faster query performance. That's not a typo. It legitimately, just by using SingleStore Kai for MongoDB, got 1,400x faster performance on their transactional and analytical queries in SingleStore. Syntez migrated from Mongo to SingleStore using literally just 5 lines of SQL. It's that easy, and this is never heard of before. Before we launched SingleStore Kai. And then, of course, all of these customers have experienced the beauty that is zero ETL that you get with SingleStore Kai, with native integration, bringing your data over from Mongo, and then connecting your application just like you connect your application to MongoDB, but to SingleStore. Some other stuff we've been working on here at SingleStore, for years. I've been with the company for 5 years, similar to Raj. What I've always heard is pipelines are awesome, pipelines are performant, but setting up my first pipeline sometimes is really troublesome. I have to configure this, I have to add in this sort of authentication, parameters and all this different sort of sometimes configurable but challenging stuff. And so what we did was we actually put a UI on top of pipelines. And what you'll see as Single Connect evolves into an experience is that all of those different applications and databases will present themselves here on the Load Data UI to make it tremendously easy for you to connect and interact with data from anywhere. Now, speaking of Single Connect, as Raj mentioned, Single Connect takes us from the ability to connect into data anywhere to applications anywhere. And you might have actually seen a lot of database companies out there going and acquiring change data capture or data movement tools. You obviously heard Databricks do this a couple of years ago. Recently, you heard ClickHouse also announce the acquisition of PeerDB. But what's fundamentally different about the Single Connect, the Brightflow acquisition for SingleStore, is the access to application data, right? Any of those databases are going out, all those databases out there are going out and trying to get access to real-time data, to batch data, but still none of them can get access to the application data at its source. The Microsoft applications, the Oracle applications, the SAP applications, all the Salesforce CRM applications that are out there in the world, and they are everywhere, and even more with agents, we will now have access to that data directly in SingleStore, and that's something that is unparalleled in the database industry, and nobody else has that. So we're super, super excited about that, which gets us just at the start, 50 plus new data sources for SingleStore, 75% faster time to market, and 10x faster insights with the Single Connect launch today. So we're very, very proud of this and excited, and a lot more to come here with Single Connect. So finally, let's talk a bit about SingleStore platform. So as we have evolved, as SingleStore has evolved, you're hearing the term platform quite a bit. And we really feel that, starting sort of as a database technology, focusing on our core for so long, we really built a strong engine. And on top of that, it's really nothing without, again, the connectors and the platform to give your compute, your data, all in SingleStore, in a secure place, seamless for access, and with the ability to create interactive experiences on top of that data in just seconds. I'd like to now invite Srinath up to the stage, who is a part of the core engineering team for platform, to walk you through a couple of these features.
Thanks, Sarang, for the introduction. So my name is Srinath. I'm an engineering manager working on the SingleStore Data Platform. So welcome to the SingleStore Data Platform. The core ideology or the philosophy behind SingleStore Data Platform is that we want to make sure that all your apps, compute, data are all in one place, and you never have to leave SingleStore for anything at all. So the first thing that we are GAing as part of the SingleStore Data Platform is scheduled jobs. You might already have seen some, you might have experienced, you are running the same analytical queries multiple times in the same day, more periodically. You might have some other workloads like backing up your data that you have to run periodically. You might write your scripts in one place. You might have to run them in another place. But now, with scheduled jobs, you can do them all in a single place. SingleStore is truly going to be your one-stop solution for everything. This is already GA'd, so our customers are already using us for a bunch of very interesting workloads. Some of them include creating vector embeddings periodically for your data so that it's available with your GenAI apps, for doing periodic clustering and scaling up your clusters and stuff like that. Internally at SingleStore, we have also been able to replace certain microservices with scheduled jobs completely. So it saved us a lot of overhead as well. So the next thing that you might want to do, that now that you have the ability to run your large analytical queries periodically, the next thing you might want to do is to build a nice visualization layer on top of that. That's exactly what we are presenting with the native integration with Plotly's Dash apps. Our SingleStore engine, like Sarang said, is super fast at analytical queries. And we want to really leverage that to give our customers a way to build real-time dashboards. Using Dash, you will be able to build a responsive app with your own authentication mechanisms as well. And you can do all of this today simply by writing a notebook. That's what we are focusing on. Our major philosophy here is that we want you to go from an interactive experience to a published app in a matter of minutes. So the next thing you might ask for is that now that we have a way to visualize our data, what more can you give us? I want to build a richer app experience. I want to be more in control of it. The next thing that we are providing as part of the platform is Cloud Functions. You can think of it as an AWS Lambda-style function where you can easily expose your data as an API layer, as a backend for anything that you want to work with. So that's exactly what we are doing with Cloud Functions. And again, you can get started on this simply by writing a notebook. So I'm going to go ahead with the demo. So
You're going to show us?
Yeah, let's see.
Super exciting. Let's see it.
Yeah, let's hope I can show the true power of the SingleStore Data Platform.
Awesome.
So for this demo, I'll be using a books review API dataset so that we can try and build some jobs on top of it, a real-time dashboard, and finally, a book recommendation AI bot out of very, very simple notebook code. So that's exactly what I have here. This is a notebook that I wrote that is going to help me vectorize the review content so that I can easily predict what categories a book might fall under and also predict what genres they fall under. So vectorizing this will enable me to make sure that the data is always up to date and that my recommendations are always up to date. Scheduling this as a job with the data platform is super simple, right? Like you just have to select the workspace you want to run with, the frequency you want to run the job at. And we also provide a way where you can save the execution snapshots so that you can look at the snapshots, see the logs for every run. You can also maybe use that as a daily dashboard. You can use that to see daily reports that you are running periodically. when you go into the notebook's UI, you can see that you'll always get information about when the last job was run, when the next job is going to be executed, and so on. So now that we have a job that is able to vectorize my data, the next thing I might want to build is a real-time dashboard, right? Like whatever I said earlier. So the real-time dashboard is going to make sure that you have a good visualization on top of your data. So I built an app, a notebook here, that's going to give me some insights into the most popular genres, the most popular books, and so on. Again, like I said, the most important philosophy for us is that we want to go from an interactive experience to a published experience in a matter of seconds. So as a developer myself, I love products that give me this interactive experience, which is very similar to our production environment, and also a very quick publishing infrastructure that can help me iterate very quickly. So once we are done running this notebook, you can easily get a link that is going to give you the interactive version of this Dash app, which gives you powerful UI for visualization. So like I said, this is a visualization to envision the total number of the popular genres, and this is one that gives you the most popular books. And remember the vectorization job that we ran earlier? That's what's powering this word cloud. So it's all in real time. You can also build a very reactive app. You can make this as an app, as a very self-contained app in itself. The best part about Dash is that you can string up whatever interactions you have with the app and the dashboard itself to different queries, which means that every time you're interacting with the dashboard, you're actually getting the most real-time data that is possible. Yeah, you can make it a very interactive app. You can have a search bar. You can do a bunch of things with that. So now that we see that our interactive app is good, we like it, the publishing process is just like I said, one click. Again, publishing this dashboard is super simple. You just have to select the workspace and the database it has to run on, and we are done. Once the dashboard is published, you will see that the experience of the published dashboard is exactly like the interactive one as well. To build more on this, I would like to show the real power of the real-time dashboards, right? So for this, we already have some content in our table, but I'm going to write another notebook that's going to inject new data into this and see how the dashboards reflect that, right? So this is a notebook that is going to inject more data into the dashboard. It's about a new book called The Time Is Now, which is by our own CEO. So this is not a plug. He did not ask me to do it, but I'm going to give it great ratings anyway. So Raj, if you're watching, you know what I'm doing. So
did you hard code a good review, or were they there already?
I wrote an honest review.
Okay, good.
So once we have this ingestion ongoing, we'll switch back to the dashboard, and we can see that the dashboard changes in real time. Yeah. So the ingestion has started. The dashboard will be reflected in real time.
So you're ingesting new reviews
Yes.
into the database.
Yep.
And they're getting vectorized.
Yes. So exactly. So remember the job that is vectorizing things? That is also what is going to power this word cloud, and we can see that update in real time. So right now, The Time Is Now is the most popular book ever. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And like I said, the vectorizer job is also going to make sure that your word cloud is up to date. So you can integrate both jobs and dashboards into one. Yep.
Very cool.
Cool. So now that we have a reactive Dash app, what more do you want to build on top of that? Maybe a backend for a nice AI chatbot. So that's exactly what I've written in this notebook as well. Very minimal code, easy to get started with. So this notebook is going to have a native LLM integration, and I've trained that on my dataset already. So I've also exposed a query, a function where you can just get a query from an user and respond with the response from the LLM. So you can use our cloud functions as a backend for any of your GenAI apps. Again, publishing it is super simple. You just have to select the database you want to work with, and you're done. We are very focused on a one-click publish experience and also an interactive experience where you can check out the APIs. Like I said, once the app is published, you also get the Swagger UI where you can test it out before you can go into the production environment yourself. To to show the power of that cloud function, I've also built a very easy to make front end using Vercel. This is an example of how I can use a very easy to build and publish front end with an easier to build back end to create this amazing chatbot in a matter of minutes. So this is specifically used for a book review, and you can do the same thing with your own data. So this is the experience that Raj and Madhukar elaborated on before. It is literally chatting with your data, right? We can do that with SingleStore today. I'm excited to see what more use cases are out there and what our customers are going to use it for. So that's the end of the demo. So feel free to reach out to me in case you guys want to try this out. I'm
Awesome.
looking forward to the different use cases that are coming up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very cool. You know, it's interesting when Raj, Madhukar, and I talked, everybody was like this, and then Srinath comes up for the demo, and everybody's like this. You know, so you can. That was super exciting, interesting stuff. Thank you, Srinath, for that. As Srinath mentioned, 100 plus scheduled jobs that you have access to today in the platform to, as templates to try out various different things like creating vector embeddings, like automating data dumps, automating backups, things like that. Super exciting. To date, we have 200,000 plus job executions already on the platform. So we have tremendous adoption, like we mentioned with Kai, with the vector search, but also with the platform capabilities. We have tremendous adoption. And as Srinath showed you, 2 minutes to create a Dash app, so you should all try it today. So just in summary, Madhukar led off with the sort of vision of the core connectors and platform. I hope you all enjoyed sort of going deeper into each of them, and that you get a chance to actually experience all this with SingleStore. The core really, the way I see it, is the core SingleStore value proposition of reduction in TCO and improved performance of your queries, like Matt talked about. Connectors, with the acquisition of Brightflow and the experience of Single Connect, you will get faster time to market with your data sources, with, more importantly, your application data. And third, like Srinath showed just now, the platform capabilities will get you that rapid feature development that you're looking for to iterate on the SingleStore data platform and build on top of that data no matter where it comes from. Really appreciate all of your time today. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.